Hello, my name is Jubal, and if you're wondering why I'm shirtless a little bit, well, because it's hot, and I don't want to get tanned a little bit, so that's just me. And today, I know this is going to be a very big topic, and I watch some videos of this, and I want to give my opinions about it. Is our hobbies are turning into jobs, and let's get right into that. So I watched a video that said hobbies equal productivity. I forgot the name of the channel, but you should go check it out. But so what happens, like they say, like growing up, you like this hobby that you liked as a kid, and you keep doing it like over and over, like repetitively, and once you get a little older, you start to say, I want to make big money out of it, just something to make a decent income. So you start like going online, finding out how to improve your craft. That goes with sports too. When I'm talking about hobbies, how to do this, how to improve that. All you gotta do is work on it, and then you'll be better. And then later on in life, you keep doing it, and once if you do, but you don't realize like the price of it, like you isolated yourself and hoping that you make it, you know what I mean? Like you hope that, I'll be there, or I'll be where I want to be, because I did this for a living. I'm in my early 20s, let's see if I make it. And it turns out you didn't make it because you didn't read all the steps that you gotta do. Like I said, you did this for a hobby, you loved it without knowing any, I wouldn't say rules and regulations, but terms and conditions about what it takes to be that way. And in the way how America is, because we live to work, which we shouldn't do that, because we're all humans, we all have emotions, all that. But sometimes it gets discouraging, like for me, I have a background with athletics, which I did soccer for most of my life, and I didn't know, you'll see the point. I didn't know that nowadays there's a lot of money involved, which you got to find, because in soccer you need to find the right agent, you need to find the right club you want to play with, and you try to improve your skills, but also you need to make a little money on the side or have a backup plan. Like, it's just a lot of steps. A lot of steps being a sports player. That goes for the NBA, MLB, NFL, NHL, and other sports. And I feel like, sometimes when I'm trying to get into new hobbies, I try not to think about that. What I try to think of is improve my craft. In my opinion, like I said, I know everybody has different opinions, and I respect that. Even if it hits me right to the heart, but respect is respect. And I noticed that, because I know a lot of you ladies and gentlemen want and start a new one. You know, you every time you start a new hobby, you say, "Oh, are you gonna make a career out of it?" You know, is it's kind of discouraging for me. It's kind of discouraging that you work this hard. You know, like you said, when you start hobbies, you started doing it for you. You know, that is your therapy. You know, it almost becomes a part of you. You know, it sometimes separates from being you and your craft, whatever profession. You know, like for example, I started learning how to write, and the reason is one of my videos about how kids can read and write. You know, so I started, which before that I started writing when I was 15 years old. Like I said, I did it just for me. You know, I was trying to impress my close family and friends, you know, to see how they feel about it. And that's how hobbies are, you know. You do it to everybody around you, you know, to get feedback and a little criticisms. That's how it is. And and then that I stopped because, you know, school and shit, and then I came back, tried to continue where I left off. And recently I just came back to it, you know, because I made almost like an oath, you know, which everybody does, that I will do the, you know, even if it helps me, you know, financially or not. You know, I know some people will have that moment when you're so into your hobby, so focused, that you don't think about the reality of your own health or your own time being. But you know, but sometimes you once in a while you get that feeling I do miss when there's no money involved. It's just you and your craft, and you share it to the other communities, you know, and they react to your craft and say, "Oh, this is pretty good," or "Oh, this is shit," whatever, blah blah blah, you know. And 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 I get that, you know. I really get that. And sometimes when I start a new hobby, I don't think about when people come up to me and say, "Are you sure you're gonna start doing this as a career or not?" But you know, but sometimes you get a little discouraged when you hear the word career. You know what I mean? It's very hard to hear that. You know? And yeah, like I said, it happens to everyone once in a while. You know? Where you're burnt out. That's the thing, you know. Sometimes people don't know how to manage when they're burnt out. When you're so into your hobby you've been doing for your whole life. And what I mean is like 2 decades of your life, and you're like, damn. And yeah, all of this, and nothing came out of it. You know? So, because it made me think about it, you know, because the new hobbies that I really wanted to do. You know, I got other hobbies I won't share because, you know, it's a little bit personal, but writing was one of them. You know, like with me, writing, because when you hear art, you hear expression. You know, you hear like, oh, express yourself. You know, when you're a newcomer or a beginner, you think of, oh, you're like, oh shit. So if I make my craft, you know, and put it out online nowadays, you know, I hope everybody likes my craft. But what don't realize, there's gonna be hardcore criticisms that come along with it. They think it'll be all sunshines and rainbows. And I do get that sometimes, you know. And I do understand it gets difficult. Talking about, like I said, I'm talking about the people who had their hobbies turn into title hustles. And another thing I brought up a little bit a few minutes ago is about how America live to work and not work to live. You know? And I do understand because, you know, everybody wants to work to live. You know, nobody wants to think about waking up every morning or every night, different shifts, to think about, oh, I have to do this just to get my paycheck, you know. But it depends how you deal with it and how you really cope with it and how to manage it on your own. Or if you have friends, you know, about talk about it. If rarely, it ever comes to that point, you know. And I do understand, you know, that sometimes people don't want their hobby to be commercialized, and now you have to do it for the money. And that goes with everything, you know. So yeah, so that's it for today's video. My name is Jubal, and see ya.